Today, we're talking about a topic that's causing some serious drama in the world of finance. I am talking about the potential downfall of the almighty US dollar. Yes, you heard it right. Now, I know what you're thinking. No way, the dollar has been the king of the financial world for as long as we can remember. But listen first. With the rise of new economic powers and some significant bumps in the road for the US economy, the greenback's future is less confident than it once was. I know this subject can be a bit dry and technical, but I promise to keep it lively and engaging. But why should you care about all this financial mumbo-jumbo? Well, my friends, the answer is simple. The US dollar's dominance affects everything from international trade to your everyday purchasing power. So if the dollar lost its top spot, it could mean significant changes for the global economy and your personal wallet. Why don't you grab your popcorn and settle in as we dive into the exciting world of finance and explore whether the US dollar's reign is ending? Let's find it out together, shall we?
And all the countries of the world are in US bills, T-bills and T-bonds. And we had the BRICS nations coming up, and they hate us, and they might switch to the Chinese gold, yuan. So we're in serious trouble. The US dollar is losing its hegemony in the world right now. So
I know you might think I'm crazy to say about this topic. Can this be happening? Is the dollar's reign at the top coming to an end? Well, hear me out. With the rise of other economic powers, especially China, the dollar's dominance may be threatened. As investors, we need to monitor all potential outcomes that could affect our finances, even if they seem unlikely. One major cause for concern is the increasing use of the yuan in countries like Russia, where it's replacing the US dollar as the most traded currency. Even President Putin has expressed his support for using the yuan in settlements between Russia and other countries. But that's not all. The COVID-19 pandemic hasn't upside down the global economy, and we still feel the impact. Many countries have amassed large amounts of debt, and supply chains have been disrupted, causing significant financial shifts. As a result, the US's power has weakened, and the risks of remaining within the dollar system have increased for countries outside the US's close circle of allies. And let's not forget about the recent sanctions imposed on Russia. It sent a clear message to other countries relying on the global dollar payment system. If Russia can be excluded, anyone else can be too. What do you think about the sanction? Is it one of the big reasons that might end the dollar?
Right now, the U.S. is imposing sanctions. Sanctions it's a form of economic warfare, and it has a big implication for the dollar.
Comment below, guys. Going back to the topic, experts predict a new multipolar international currency system is emerging, which they've dubbed Breton Woods 3. This new system would significantly depart from the current US-dominated financial system and could have significant implications for investors worldwide. And you know what? This topic has been introduced previously. Robert Kiyosaki, the famous author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been discussing it for years. He's a vocal critic of the US dollar and the Federal Reserve's monetary policies. In his book, Fake, Kiyosaki argues that the US dollar is just a piece of paper that the government keeps printing more of, and he believes that this will lead to the dollar's collapse and a shift towards a new global currency. Is the end of the US dollar's dominance on the horizon? As Kiyosaki suggests, could silver and gold become the good money that replaces the dollar? What do you think? Do you know that old saying, money talks? Well, the US dollar might be losing its voice. That's right, the de-dollarization of the world is well underway, and some major global powers are teaming up, such as South Africa, Russia, China, India, and Brazil, to establish their own global reserve currency. I know what you're thinking. How will this impact me? Well, hold on tight because we're about to take a wild ride through the world of finance. In case you missed it, the US dollar's reserve status has declined since 2014. Major global powers started de-dollarizing their business dealings, and the war in Ukraine and subsequent sanctions have only accelerated the process. The US has imposed unprecedented sanctions on Russia's banks, wealthy individuals, and even the country's central bank, which has led some Russian oligarchs to turn to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
India is dealing directly with Russia, and holders of dollar-denominated assets don't want to hold those dollar assets if they feel that they're going to be grabbed and so on. So what's happening now has happened many times before. And without that kind of perspective, I wouldn't be able to deal with it.
And that's not all. Russia has been ramping up the process of ending its reliance on U.S. financial companies like Visa and the international interbank payment system SWIFT. But it's not just the sanctions causing the U.S. dollar's weakness. Brace yourself for an extended period of dollar decline as the U.S. economy is set to slow and the Federal Reserve will end rate hikes. According to HSBC Global Private Banking, investors should prepare for a period of U.S. dollar weakness from the middle of this year onward. So what does this mean for the future of the U.S. dollar? You might not know something interesting. China and Russia have hoarded gold like there's no tomorrow. They've been buying and producing tons of this stuff for years, and now they've got some of the largest stashes in the world. And you know what this means? These countries can access neutral, apolitical money with no counterparty risk. Gold has been humankind's most enduring form of money for over 2,500 years because of its unique characteristics. It's durable, divisible, consistent, convenient, scarce, and most importantly, the hardest of all physical commodities. It's the one physical commodity that's the hardest to produce, which makes it the most resistant to inflation. And this is what gives gold its superior monetary properties. Now, why are China and Russia hoarding all this gold? They're waiting for the right moment to challenge the US dollar's supremacy. And that moment might be now. If Russia and China start using their gold to engage in international trade and possibly back their currencies, it could form the foundation of a new monetary system outside of the US's control. And this could be the final nail in the coffin for dollar dominance. But here's the thing. The US government relies heavily on the US dollar's status as the world's premier reserve currency. It allows them to print fake money out of thin air and exchange it for tangible goods and services. And this is a privileged racket that no other country has. So if the US dollar's dominance ends, it could be a significant problem for the government. And the average lifespan of reserve currencies is just around 100 years. So the US dollar might be nearing the end of its run.
Because this thing here is trash. They're going to print more and more of this fake money. And that's what the Fed and the FDIC is signaling. We're going to print as much of this as possible to keep the crash from accelerating. But they're the guys who are causing it.
I know the idea of a currency collapse might seem crazy, but it's not as far-fetched as you might think. Money is simply an IOU from the government. And for a currency to have value, society needs to believe that the government has value. And while the US certainly has a lot of valuable assets and taxpayers, collapse could come without warning. As Robert Kiyosaki tweeted, "I believe the economy is the biggest bubble in world history. God have mercy on us all." What do you think? Are we witnessing the end of the US dollar dominance? Have you ever heard of hyperinflation? It's like when your money evaporates into thin air, becoming practically worthless. Think Zimbabwe in the early 2000s. But did you know that political instability and high debt can also seriously impact a country's currency? It's a scary thought, but worth considering, especially when discussing the almighty US dollar. I know what you're thinking. The US is a superpower. There's no way its currency could be at risk, right? Wrong. Even the strongest empires can crumble, and the US dollar is no exception. Trade imbalances, loss of status as a global reserve currency, natural disasters, or even war can end US dollar dominance. And if that wasn't enough, there's even more bad news. The Fed could pause its rate hikes, meaning the dollar's outlook looks pretty gloomy.
The Fed just prints money and gives it to banks, okay, to prevent them from failing. So that's not capitalism, that's Marxism. So what the Fed is trying to do is print tons of debt, like I think 10 trillion this year, to prevent the banks from failing. So they need inflation because they want to pay back the debt with Zimbabwe dollars. Just think about that.
Many traders expect the central bank to hold rates at their current level when it next meets, and investors are starting to pair their bets for further rate hikes. When interest rates stay at the same level, the currency becomes less attractive to foreign traders seeking higher yields. But don't just take my word for it. In a recent interview, Robert Kiyosaki warns US dollar will return as a tidal wave of toilet paper on America. Yikes. While Russia no longer accepts US dollars in exchange for its energy, they're demanding payment in rubles and even accepting gold or Bitcoin in return for their commodities. That's right, even cryptocurrency is appearing in this global finance game. But why are countries looking for alternatives to the US dollar? Well, one reason is that they may need to trust the currency's actual value. Another reason is that they may want to diversify their holdings and reduce their dependence on the US. As the world's most stable currency, the US dollar has been the go-to currency for global trade for decades. However, recent events have raised questions about the future of the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. For example, El Salvador became the first country to begin buying Bitcoin to break its reliance on the US dollar and traditional financial system. Other countries are considering making similar moves, and some analysts predict that a central bank could even follow El Salvador's lead this year. Will the dollar be dethroned? Who knows? We'll all be trading in gold, Bitcoin, or some other currency shortly. You know what they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And the rumors about the potential end of the US dollar's reign as the world's reserve currency have been smoldering for years. But what does this actually mean for us and the global economy? Well, some experts have speculated that the US could lose its ability to export dollars, resulting in more dollars staying in the US and leading to higher inflation. Others argue that this could lead to a significant conflict and the changing of the world's reserve currency. It's a big deal, friends. Now, let's look at the current state of the US dollar. Despite what some people believe, it's actually increasing and close to its highest point in the past 2 decades. So why do some people think the dollar's value is decreasing? One reason is that the total US dollars held globally have gradually decreased. And secondly, other countries are forming alliances and partnerships, bypassing the use of the US dollar with the help of Russia's energy resources. It's like the cool kids at school forming their own cliques, and the US dollar isn't invited. But wait, there's more. While the US dollar remains the dominant currency for global transactions, the Chinese yuan is growing at the euro and Japanese yen's expense, not the dollar. And as we speak, there are 5 flashing red warning signs that the end of the dollar hegemony is near. It's like the apocalypse, but for the economy. So, what should we do? Should we panic and start stuffing our mattresses with gold coins? Well, not quite. While the rumors about the end of the US dollar's dominance may hold some truth, there's no need to go into full-on panic mode. The dollar remains stable and the global economy isn't collapsed tomorrow. While the chances of the US dollar collapsing anytime soon are slim, diversifying your investments is always a good idea, as Robert Kiyosaki urges us to diversify our currency holdings to prepare for the US dollar potentially losing its reserve currency status. Let's take action to protect our investments and capitalize on opportunities that may arise. It's like having a safety net for your money. That's it for this video, friends. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more awesome finance content from your favorite